It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and apparently it is the second day of this 3-day Apple experience, which means somewhere a keynote deck is being resized at the speed of light. This is CoeCast. I'm Hunter.
And I'm Riley. Also, I love that today is basically a national holiday for people who say things like, it just works while their laptop is on fire.
Facts. Also, quick heads up, this episode was assembled end-to-end by an automated AI pipeline. Like the machines did the routing, the drafting, the cleanup, the whole thing.
Which means if we say something unhinged, blame the robots. Kidding. Mostly.
Today's big thread is audio. Alibaba Tongyi Lab dropped Fun-CosyVoice 3.5 and Fun-AudioGen-VD. The spicy part is they're pushing natural language control for voice and sound, not just picking from a little menu of cheerful, calm, angry.
Wait, hold up. So are we actually done with preset style tags? Or did we just move the tags into prompts and pretend we evolved?
I think we're not done, but we're closer. Tags were always a crutch for UX. Narration, customer support, hype TikTok voice. Natural language control is better because it's more like directing a human. You can say, sound like you're smiling but trying not to laugh, and it actually lands.
Yeah, but the minute teams scale, they're going to standardize those prompts. Like, your sound like you're smiling but trying not to laugh becomes the new tag. It's just a tag wearing a trench coat.
Totally, you get prompt templates. But the upgrade is you're not boxed into the vendor's taxonomy. You can create a voice Bible that's actually in plain English and then automate it.
Okay, that part I love. Because marketers already have brand voice guidelines, now it's like, congrats, you get brand voice guidelines for literal voice.
Exactly. And Alibaba's claiming fewer rare character errors and lower first packet latency. People on X are obsessed with the first packet thing.
Because it makes demos feel like magic, like, ooh, it talks instantly. But where's the line where near real time actually changes the workflow?
When it stops being a render step and becomes an interaction layer, like live product demos where the narrator can react, or IVR flows that don't sound like a phone tree from 2006, or interactive ads where a user asks a question and the voice answers without that awkward dead air.
Yeah. The dead air is what makes AI feel like a scam. If it responds fast, it feels alive, and that changes behavior. People will actually talk to it instead of rage-clicking the close button.
Also, internal workflows. Imagine a creative director in a review session. Can we make that line more conspiratorial, like you're letting me in on something, and the voice regenerates instantly?
Wait, Hunter, isn't that also a risk? Because if it's instant, you'll do infinite takes and never ship.
Oh, 100%. That's where systems matter. Put constraints in the workflow. Like you get a few approved directions, then you lock it and move on.
Okay, now talk to me about Fun-AudioGen-VD. Because soundscapes are about to become the new stock photo, right? Like, everyone's brand is going to have the same futuristic, airy ambiance with soft whooshes.
The samey AI ambience problem is real. The fix is basically what good brands already do. Build a sonic identity. Not just a logo sting, but a palette. Specific textures, tempo, room feel, instrumentation rules. Then you feed that as constraints.
So like a sound style guide.
Yeah, and you don't let the model freestyle every time. You version your sound recipes. Retail spot bed version B, podcast intro bed version D, and the model is generating within a fenced yard.
I'm obsessed with that because it's the same thing we learned with image models. If you don't have a style guide, diffusion will turn your brand into generic mid-journey core.
Yup. And since these are open models, a lot of teams will just grab defaults and call it a day, which means the ones who actually do sound direction are going to stand out.
Okay, but we can't do an audio episode without saying the scary part out loud. Open source voice cloning keeps getting easier. What's the most practical governance you've seen that isn't please don't be evil?
The boring stuff that actually works. Consent plus provenance plus approvals. Consent meaning you have a signed voice release if it's a real person. Provenance meaning you watermark, or at least track what model, what source audio, what prompt, what operator, and approvals meaning no voice asset ships without a human sign-off.
So, receipts.
Exactly. And access control. Not everybody on the marketing team needs the ability to generate CEO voice.
Thank you. Because you know some intern is going to be like, guys, I made the CEO say skibbity, and suddenly we're in a crisis meeting.
Also, limit where the voices can be used. Like, this voice can only be used for language localization of approved scripts, not for improvising.
Which is funny because improvising is what everyone wants. But that's the line between brand tool and deepfake machine.
Speaking of tools getting more production grade, OpenAI has been pushing updates around the Responses API and the Agent SDK. The chatter is about stability, logging, auditing, orchestration, and even terminal shell support for agent workflows.
Okay, Hunt. Here's my hot take. Half of agents are just workflow automation with a hoodie on.
That's not even a hot take, Riles, that's just true. The dividing line for me is, can it handle ambiguity and still complete the job safely? A workflow is deterministic. If this, then that. An agent should be able to take a messy goal like prep our weekly launch report, then go gather data, run checks, draft, and flag what it's uncertain about.
But only if it's observable. I don't want an agent doing sneaky stuff at 3 a.m. with my brand account.
Exactly. That's why logging and auditing is the real glow-up. Not wow, it can think, but wow, I can see what it did, and roll it back.
Also, everyone bragging about multi-agent parallelism is giving group project energy. Like, congrats, you spawned 5 agents and now they're all confidently wrong in different fonts.
The funniest failure mode I've seen is when marketers run parallel agents to generate campaign variants, and they end up with 12 contradictory brand claims. One agent is like, we're premium luxury. Another is like, we're the cheap alternative, and then a third agent writes the apology email preemptively.
Wait, I've literally had that happen. Not the apology email, but like, the agents start optimizing for different audiences, and suddenly you're messaging chaos.
The fix is a shared source of truth, a brand context doc that's locked, a product facts file that's locked, and a single editor step where a human or a smaller guard model acts like a bouncer.
Yes, bouncer model. No fake claims get in, no unapproved tone gets in, no weird compliance stuff gets in.
Which brings us to Claude. They had that outage, then they've been talking about memory upgrades and importing history. Two sides of the same coin, continuity and dependency.
The outage was a jump scare. Like, oh right, we're renting our brains. What's your playbook when your main assistant goes down mid-launch?
Have a fallback stack. Seriously, your workflow should be model agnostic where possible. If Claude is your editor, have a second editor option ready. If OpenAI is your agent runtime, have a manual runbook. And cache your important context locally. Brand guidelines, product positioning, the current campaign brief. So you're not stuck recreating context from memory like it's a school exam.
And don't put all your automations behind one UI login. If the web app is down but the API is up, you want the pipeline to still run.
Exactly, that's the production difference.
Okay, memory upgrades though. Sounds amazing, also sounds like a future nightmare. Where do you think backlash hits first?
Brand risk. Somebody will have a model remember something that's outdated or sensitive, then it repeats it like it's gospel. And teams will overtrust it because it feels personalized.
Or privacy. Like, why does it remember that? Is going to be the new, why is my phone listening?
The practical move is, treat memory like a curated profile, not an infinite diary. Only store approved stable facts. And set a review cadence. Like, once a month you audit what it thinks it knows about your brand.
I love that. Memory should be like a fridge, not a landfill.
Great metaphor. And tying it back to today's audio news, memory plus voice is a wild combo. Because a voice agent that remembers your product context and can speak with on-brand emotion, that's a real concierge, not a talking FAQ.
And it will absolutely expose lazy brands. If your brand voice is just friendly and professional, your AI voice is going to sound like everyone else's AI voice. Beige, but in audio form.
Beige audio is brutal. All right, before we wrap, it's day 2 of the Apple experience, so if Apple announces anything that makes on-device audio generation normal, the entire voice in the workflow conversation just got louder.
Pun intended.
Always intended.
All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging with us while we tried to keep the robots on the rails.
Appreciate you listening. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and check out koi.com/resources for AI news and updates.
And enjoy the Apple experience energy. May your automations be logged, your voices be consented, and your soundscapes not be the same futuristic whoosh as everyone else.
Catch you next time.